So lately I've been thinking a lot about the importance of taking action in life, because it's dawned on me that one of my biggest weaknesses is analysis paralysis, which is basically overthinking, essentially spending too much time thinking as opposed to executing. It's almost as if every idea that I have gets run through this filter of doubt, insecurity, and fear that ultimately makes it more challenging to actually act on these ideas. But over the past year or so, I've been learning two very important principles that have really changed my mindset in terms of taking action and making decisions in my life. The first principle is that done is better than perfect. It's this idea of starting before you're ready, bringing something to the table even though you know it's not your best work, because ultimately something is better than nothing. And if you just keep showing up and being consistent, the result that you want is inevitable. The second principle is actually something that I didn't discover through reading some philosophy book or listening to a lecture or anything like that. It actually comes from my favorite TV show, The Sopranos.
More is lost by indecision than a wrong decision.
That's a good point.
It's the idea that there is more value in making mistakes and making wrong choices than not making any choices at all. It's learning to value failure as opposed to being afraid of it. Because through mistakes and through failure, there are lessons that can be learned and experiences that you can take with you for the rest of your life. And the willingness to fail is oftentimes the one defining factor, or superpower, if you will, that separates the successful from the unsuccessful.
And people can write all they want, but what are people doing? And if there's anybody that's out there doing, they know how hard it is to actually do. If everything I did failed, just the fact that I'm willing to fail is an inspiration. People are so scared to lose that they don't even try.
But these ideas, they can't just exist as abstract concepts in our minds, right? We actually have to bring them out into the real world, and they need to manifest themselves in our day-to-day lives. And we can do that by incorporating healthier habits and practices. And so that's what I want to share with you guys today. These are just some simple changes that I've been making in my life, maybe some changes that you can make in your life in order to train ourselves to do more and think less. Let's get started.
The first practice is to change your default activities. We all have certain activities that we tend to default to when we get bored. For many of us, this tends to be things like binging Netflix, playing video games, or mindlessly scrolling through our social media feeds. But there are plenty of other activities that could just as easily fill this space and make better use of our time. So what I've done is I've come up with a list of things that I can automatically default to whenever I feel that sense of boredom start to creep up on me, or whenever I have some spare time. For me, these things include cleaning, meditation, exercise, and reading. These are all activities that will almost never be a waste of your time. Take cleaning, for example. There have been plenty of times when I've started cleaning simply out of pure boredom. As a kid, I never would have imagined myself ever saying this, but I've actually grown to kind of like the act of cleaning. It's a rather mindless activity that I can just drone out to and maybe put on my headphones and listen to an audiobook or podcast while I do it. It allows my mind a bit of a rest while also still making good use of my time. Exercise is another good example. Even if it's a day in which I've already done my workout for the day, I'll still go out for a walk or a light jog if I ever need to clear my head or if I get bored.
By the way, just as an aside, this is the current read right now. This book is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and it is just blowing my mind in terms of finance and how I think about money and investing and all of that. And it's a very famous book. I know a lot of you have probably already read it, but if you haven't, give this one a read.
The second practice is to schedule downtime.
You wake up in the morning and you think, here's 5 things I have to do that if I don't do, my life will be worse. Paying bills, for example, or taking out the garbage. It's like you have to do those because otherwise things degenerate. Well, here's some things you have to do, but here's some things that if you do, you could reward yourself with. And if you get the balance there between obligation and reward right, then you'll find that you're motivated to do the things. And that's what you want to do. You want to do that so it's sustainable across days and weeks and months.
Okay, so this might sound a bit contrary to the first practice, but let's be realistic. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I don't like playing video games or watching my fair share of good shows on Netflix. I even like to scroll through social media to see what my friends and family are up to.
But I don't think it's any secret anymore that these things can be highly addictive, and if we aren't careful, they can come with some pretty negative consequences. And so what I think we need to do is develop a more mindful approach to these things, a way that they can exist in our lives without our lives being completely taken over by them. And one of the ways that we can do that is by scheduling these things into our day, actually writing them out and designating time for ourselves to indulge in these things. It's not always easy, especially with social media. It's just very, very easy to pick up the phone and start scrolling whenever you're bored. But I think this act of scheduling is valuable. It's worth cultivating because it brings a sense of intention to these activities instead of just mindlessly engaging with them. It brings a sense of awareness that wasn't there before. And I think that goes a long way with helping us better control our time and take back our time.
The third practice is do at least 1%. There's this old Japanese concept called Kaizen, which basically means continuous improvement. It's often interpreted as being 1% better. It's a method of approaching improvement that emphasizes small, tiny, gradual steps towards your goals, as opposed to making huge quantum leaps forward. What this approach does is it makes your goals actually achievable. It focuses your thinking and puts your goals within your grasp. It's less about worrying how far you still need to go to get to where you want to be, and more just about showing up every day and putting one foot in front of the other. It's about seeing the value in the small tasks that we do every day in order to grow. 1% is doable for me, and it's doable for all of us.
What I am learning is that becoming a more action-oriented person, becoming somebody who doesn't just have ideas, but is willing to actually put in the work to bring those ideas to life, that isn't something that you're born with. That's more like a mental muscle that needs to be worked out every single day. It's a skill that needs to be cultivated. I'm reminded of this quote by a guy named Darren Hardy, who says that success is never bought. It's only rented, and the rent is due every day. What that basically means is that success, achievement, taking action, these are all choices. It's a choice that we have to make on a day-to-day basis. And if we're willing to make that choice day in and day out, if we're willing to say yes to that part of ourselves that is a go-getter, that is a hustler, that is somebody who is willing to put in the work, who wants to bring things to life, if we say yes to that part of ourselves and no to the part of ourselves that is constantly timid and afraid and worried about what other people think and would have us trapped in our own heads for the rest of our lives if we let it. If we say no to that part and we say yes to the other part, then, well, success is inevitable. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope that helped, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.